Hello, you beautiful people. Today I wanted to talk to you guys about some waiver wire pickups and drops for the short term and long term, and this is going to be the week 9 edition. So I decided I'm going to make one of these every Monday just because you guys really seem to be enjoying them. And before we begin, feel free to like and subscribe if you want to. And I also made a Discord for the non-casual fantasy players, so feel free to join that if you want to discuss any fantasy trades, basketball stuff, NBA thing, just anything in general really. Really good community in there, so I definitely recommend that. And with that being said, yeah, let's just jump right into the video. So we're going to go ahead and start with the long-term options that I think you should add to your team, and the first one's going to be DeLon Wright. So we all know the Pistons have been really shaking things up. I mean, they moved D Rose for Dennis Smith Jr. in a pick, and now it looks like Blake Griffin's going to leave as well, so that's really just left them with not a lot of depth, honestly. It's not like they were a deep team to begin with, but now it's just like DeLon Wright has become their primary point guard, ball handler, and there's really just a lot of opportunity for him to get fantasy points. I mean, he's playing upwards of 30 minutes a night. And yeah, he's just a really solid player. I really like his fantasy value right now just because of these trades. It's just opened up a lot of open shots for him, a lot of passing, like just everything really. So I think DeLon's a really great fantasy option right now. I'd definitely look into getting him if you could. He's on a lot of waiver wires still, so I definitely act quick on that one. Like I'd pause this video and go pick him up. I think he's going to be that good for fantasy, and yeah, he's going to be the first player on our long-term options of adding list. And next up, the only reason that this guy is not first is because he was the thumbnail of last week's waiver wire pickups and drops video, but it's going to be Derek White, and I just love being right about these sort of things. I predicted Derek White was going to be a really good player, and so far it looks like he's starting to deliver and turn that around. I mean, he had a really, really good game last night, I think it was. It gave a lot of fantasy points, so depending what your league settings are, I think he was pretty universally good just because he had points, assists, and some steals. So Derek White, I think he's just as good as DeLon. If you can't get DeLon, I'd definitely try to get Derek White. Those are like the two players I'm the highest on from this list. So yeah, Derek White, I gave my reasoning in last week's waiver wire like ads and drops if you want to watch that video, but he's just a really, really good player, man. He was kind of breaking out in the bubble, so I mean, I was kind of expecting this just when he got back from that injury, but yeah, I mean, anyway, so Derek White, really good player, same with DeLon, but the next up is someone who's kind of had a bit of a rejuvenation, honestly, and it's going to be Lou Will. So the thing with Lou Will is, like, we all know, like, microwave off the bench just gets buckets, but he really wasn't doing that this year, and it looks like I personally feel like Paul George's injury is going to keep him out for like a significant amount of time. So as long as he's out, I feel like Lou Will is relevant for any fantasy format. And I mean, yeah, I mean, there's not much to say. We all know what Lou Will does: comes off the bench and puts the ball in the bucket. Like there's not there's not that much complex things about his game. He's just a pure scorer, and he's really looking nice for fantasy right now. And as long as Paul George is out, I think he's a must roster player. So I definitely look into getting him. Speaking of must roster players, this is someone that I was not expecting this to come, just because like he's not that great of a scorer, but it's going to be Draymond Green. And I mean, that's the only knock against Draymond Green is just the lack of scoring ability, but so far all of his peripheral stats have just been really solid. I mean, especially with all the injuries coming to the Warriors, like big men and stuff. So yeah, as long as Wiseman and Looney are out, and even when they're back in, Draymond has sort of turned the clock back a little bit, looks more like his past self. He's playing a lot better, so I think he's a great option to add as well. Especially if you're in a category league. This is definitely a great one for category league players, but yeah, that's going to do it for the 4 main guys. And I always try to put like a deeper option for like the more thin waiver wire leagues, like 12 man. So the last player is going to be, this is just for like really deep leagues, it's going to be Jalen Brunson. And this is a player that I'm very high on, honestly. I mean, he's getting the minutes. Rick Carlisle really seems to trust him, and he's just a smart basketball player. He always makes good decisions. Really good backup point guard to have after Luka. You can also play with Luka just because he can create a little bit off the dribble. So yeah, that's going to conclude the long-term ads from the waiver wires for week 9. I mean, I think DeLon and Derek White are the main ones I'd try to pick up, and then Lou Will. I mean, it's kind of in order, so Derek White and DeLon Wright are kind of interchangeable, but other than that, it's kind of in order of who I would pick up first. And yeah, with that being said, let's just go ahead and move on to the short-term ads. So starting off the short-term ads is actually another Pistons player, and you might not be too aware of this guy because he is a rookie, but it's going to be Saddiq Bey. And if it wasn't for Blake Griffin also looking like he's going to be on his way out of the Pistons, I don't think he'd be too relevant of a fantasy option because he's sort of just been balling out while Blake hasn't been playing. But I mean, now that Blake's going to be gone, that's really opened up a lot of opportunity for Saddiq Bey. He's a really good shooter, surprisingly. I mean, his jumper looks kind of weird, but he was a good shooter in college, so fair enough. It looks like it's translating. And yeah, he's just a really solid player. I don't know if I completely trust the production he's putting up. I don't know if it's sustainable, so that's why he's in the short-term ads, but I could easily see him moving on to a long-term ad. I just want a bigger sample size before I made that kind of decision, so definitely keep your eye on Saddiq Bey, and I'd definitely pick him up if you were just to have like a streaming spot and you're looking for a good, solid player for this week. And sticking with that theme, it's going to be Jakob Poeltl, and I mean, yeah, Jakob Poeltl's like he's kind of like Ivica Zubac, you know, like in the sense that like if he gets minutes, he just puts up really good fantasy numbers. And with Aldridge out, I feel like Jakob Poeltl's a really good fantasy option. He just really solid rebounding, runs the floor. He's not going to take any dumb shots, so field goal percentage is going to be good. And yeah, he's just a nice source of fantasy points whenever Aldridge is out. So yeah, he's second on my short-term ads. Next up is, I mean, this guy just got hurt. I would have had him as like the 1 or the 2, but it's going to be Paul Millsap. And I feel like he's just sort of like a bit of a forgotten player on the Nuggets just because they have Jokic, Murray, Michael Porter Jr., Will Barton. And then there's just like solid, reliable Paul Millsap. And he is hurt, and I don't know how the severity of it, so definitely keep your eye on that before you pick him up. But he was on a good stretch of games there, so definitely if you just need like some consistency, then I definitely look into Paul Millsap. Next up is someone that for some reason, I never understand how they're in the league. This guy, TJ McConnell and Kyle Anderson, man, something about them is just like the way they play just seems, I don't know, man, there's just something so weird about it. Like he just looks so small and he can't shoot. And it's just like, I don't understand how he's in the league, but every year, I mean, he has great assist numbers. I think he's leading the league in steals percentage right now. So he always just finds a way to make himself useful, even though he doesn't have that good of a jumper. And yeah, TJ McConnell is just a really good player to add for the short term, just because of, like I said, the assists, the steals. And the Pacers do have quite a few injuries to their lineup right now, so it's opening up a bit more opportunity for him, but he is delivering in a big way. I mean, he's had a few 10-plus assist games, so I definitely look into picking him up, especially for categories leagues. These are mainly points league ads, but he's definitely a great category player to have too. And the last short-term ad I want to talk about is Anthony Edwards. So the thing with Anthony Edwards is that we all know that like he's a gifted scorer going to the rim, and we've all just been looking for like some sort of consistency from him. And I feel like the past few games he's shown enough that like if you have a streaming spot and all the other guys are taken and you want to take like a flyer, then I'd go ahead and pick up Anthony Edwards just for a few games. Maybe he'll get hot. I mean, everyone knows like he is kind of like a microwave. Like if he gets going, he's a very streaky player. So if his jumper starts falling, then there's definitely some opportunities for big nights from him. So yeah, that's going to conclude the short-term ads. Saddiq Bey, Jakob Poeltl, Paul Millsap, TJ McConnell, Anthony Edwards. All really good players for the short term. The only ones that I can see potentially moving into long-term ads could be Saddiq Bey, Poeltl if Aldridge is out for an extended period of time, and maybe Millsap. And yeah, with that being said, let's just move on to the players that I think you should drop. So if you made it this far into the video, then I know you're not a casual, so I definitely recommend joining the Discord. You're definitely the type of person we're looking for in there. Just someone that contributes to great fantasy basketball discussions, NBA discussions, and just really likes talking hoops. So definitely join that if you're interested. The link is in the description below, like I said. And we're just going to go ahead and get into the players that I think are just looking like droppable options, honestly. So starting off the list, it's a shame to say, but it's going to be LaMarcus Aldridge, and I feel like even if he comes back, I mean, that pretty much just hurts Poeltl's value more than it helps it, and it also just, like, even when he's playing, he's not that great of an option. He really just looks like time might have caught up to him, and he's not going to be a very viable fantasy option anymore. And yeah, the next one is kind of the opposite. This is a really young player that's just been struggling for consistency, and it's going to be RJ Barrett. Now, this was the thing that I said to watch out for with the Derrick Rose trade, because we all know how much Tibbs loves Derrick Rose, and if he decided to go with the option of putting the ball in Rose's hands and just letting Barrett play off of him, it was really going to hurt his numbers, and so far it looks like that's what their plan is for this season. Maybe it'll translate to them winning a few more games, but it's definitely hurting RJ's numbers, and I feel like that's just going to make him a droppable player, honestly. And next up is someone that's getting passed by a rookie right now, and it's going to be Devontae Graham. So he had a really big breakout campaign last year, but like I don't think anyone expected Melo to be this good. Like Melo is just setting the world on fire right now, and it looks like he just needs more minutes, like if the Hornets want to play good basketball and win games. So I feel like he's got to start. He's going to be taking Devontae Graham's spot most likely. Graham's just never been that efficient from the field, so he's really just not that great for fantasy format anyway. Now that Ball is going to be cutting into his playing time, I feel like he's a droppable player as well. And next up, this is just someone that I think is just because of the injury. Like, he is still rostered in about 40% of leagues, which I just feel like without any updates on his injury status, I feel like there's no sense in keeping TJ Warren on a roster. I mean, unless you have like 3 IR spots and you're stashing him there, but otherwise, like, there's plenty of better players that I would put in an IR spot if you only have like 1 or 2. And if you don't have any IR spots, then there's really just no reason in even having him on a roster at all, in my opinion. So, yeah, I feel like it's time to drop him. There's been no updates at all, and I don't think they're going to rush him back either, so droppable player in my opinion. And lastly, this one's kind of conditional, but it's going to be Chris Boucher. And the only reason that I think Chris Boucher might be a droppable player is just because of the rumors right now with Andre Drummond. And the Raptors are just really lacking in big man depth. Like, they really need a great rebounder if they're going to sort of fix some of the issues that their team's been having. And for some reason, Nick Nurse just seems to hate playing Chris Boucher extended minutes as well. So Yeah, I mean, this is conditional. Like, if the Raptors end up not signing Andre Drummond or any big man, then for sure, definitely keep Chris Boucher. But if they do sign someone, then I definitely look at dropping him just because, like, he's not going to be getting that many minutes. So, yeah, that's going to conclude the video. Leave your guys' waiver wire ads and drops in the comments below, like always. I want to thank you guys very much for watching, and yeah, hope you all have a great day.